You've been carrying chains, invisible, heavy, suffocating chains, chains of fear, of doubt, of failure, of what people told you could never do. And for years, maybe decades, those chains have been sealed shut, sealed by rejection, sealed by betrayal, sealed by your own belief that you are not enough. But listen to me right now. Today is the day the final seal is broken. You've been waiting for permission, haven't you? Permission to rise, permission to speak your truth, permission to claim what's already inside you. But you don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need someone to come tap you on the shoulder and tell you it's your turn. It's already your turn. You just forgot. The final seal breaks when you decide, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when circumstances align, right now, because the truth is readiness never comes. It is forged in the fire of action. You know what the seals represent? Every excuse, every limitation, every time you said, I can't, every time you whispered, maybe later, every time you let fear drive instead of you. But the moment you stand up, the moment you say, enough, the moment you commit with absolute certainty, the last seal shatters and nothing holds you anymore. Think about this. A dam only holds back water until the pressure builds so high that it explodes. That's you. All your potential, all your energy, all your greatness has been building behind the seals of fear and doubt. And when that last one breaks, your life floods forward with unstoppable force. Do you feel it? That surge in your chest. That's the call. That's the breakthrough. That's the universe saying, you're done hiding. So here's the truth. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not behind. You are powerful beyond measure. The only thing that stood in your way were those seals you kept honoring as if they were unbreakable. But they're not. They're paper walls pretending to be steel. And today, you tear through them. From this moment on, no more shrinking, no more waiting, no more negotiating with fear. The final seal is broken. You are free. And when a human being tastes freedom, real freedom, nothing on this planet can stop them. Now go. Don't tiptoe. Don't hesitate. Run through that opening like your life depends on it, because it does. Your destiny is waiting, and the seal that kept you from it no longer exists. Every one of us carries chains, invisible yet heavy, dragging behind us in ways that most people never even notice until they try to move forward. These chains are not made of metal. They are not forged in a factory, yet they weigh more than any physical burden could. They are forged from fear, doubt, past failures, limiting beliefs, and the opinions of those who told us we couldn't, shouldn't, or wouldn't. They are forged by the experiences we thought would define us forever. They are forged by the very doubts we whisper to ourselves in the dead of night, the thoughts that say, I'm not enough, the feelings that tell us I can't. And for years, maybe decades, these chains hold us down, convincing us that our potential is smaller than it truly is. They convince us that what we dream of is out of reach, not because it is, but because we have been trained to believe that it is. And the tragic thing is, we often don't even realize these chains exist because they are subtle. They hide in habits, in routines, in decisions we don't even question. They hide in the excuses we make, in the reasons we tell ourselves why this is not the right time, why we're not ready, why it has to wait. And yet, every single one of these chains is holding back a version of you that is desperate to break free. Every chain is a seal locking up the power, the creativity, the courage, and the brilliance that is already inside you. The first step in understanding the weight of these chains is awareness. Awareness is more than just knowing. It is feeling, recognizing, and confronting the truth that something has been holding you back. Awareness is the light that shines on the places you have been hiding, that illuminates the fears you have been ignoring, that reveals the doubts you have been trying to bury. And awareness is uncomfortable. It forces you to look at the parts of yourself you would rather deny. It forces you to ask questions that are hard to answer. Why am I stuck? Why do I feel so heavy? What is keeping me from the life I know I deserve? But without this awareness, the chains remain invisible, the burden remains, and the potential within you remains trapped. These chains are deceptive because they disguise themselves as protection. Fear tells you it is keeping you safe. Doubt tells you it is preventing failure. And past pain tells you it is shielding you from heartbreak. But in reality, these chains are not protecting you. They are imprisoning you. They are small enough that you almost don't notice them at first, subtle enough that you accept them as part of life, and strong enough that they can hold a person down for decades. They convince you that comfort is safety, that familiarity is security, that the known struggle is better than the unknown opportunity. And yet, while you are convinced of this, life is passing you by. The world is moving forward while you remain trapped, believing that this is all that life has to offer, believing that you are powerless to change it. Every chain has a story. Some chains are forged from the voices of parents or teachers who told you, you can't do that. Some chains are forged from the heartbreaks that convinced you that trust is dangerous. Some chains are forged from failures that you replay in your mind, telling yourself over and over that you're not capable. And the most insidious chains are those we forge ourselves, believing the lies we tell ourselves about who we are, what we deserve, and what we are capable of. These chains grow heavier with every unchallenged thought, every avoided action, every dream deferred. They grow tighter with every time you choose comfort over courage, every time you accept less than you deserve, every time you tell yourself, maybe someday, and yet they are all breakable, all removable, all conquerable. Understanding the weight of these chains is not about blaming anyone for them. It is not about guilt or shame. It is about clarity. It is about finally seeing the reality of what has been holding you back. It is about understanding that the pain, fear, and doubt that have shaped your past are not indicators of your limitations. They are signals that there is work to be done, that growth is necessary, and that power is waiting to be claimed. The moment you see the chains clearly is the moment you begin to understand your own strength. The moment you recognize the weight you have been carrying is also the moment you realize you have been carrying it for a reason, and that reason is the preparation for breaking it. Chains, by their nature, are heavy, but they are also visible. Every time you face a fear, confront a doubt, or challenge a limitation, you chip away at the chain. Every time you make a choice that aligns with your potential, you weaken the link. Every time you act in spite of the resistance, you demonstrate to yourself that the weight was never unbreakable. It was a test, a measure of how badly you wanted more than the confines of your current reality. The chains get heavier not because life is cruel, but because the mind believes that avoidance is safety. And yet the moment you act, the moment you face the discomfort, the moment you choose courage over fear, the chains begin to crumble. Every person in history who has achieved greatness has had to confront chains of their own. Every person who has broken through the limits of their circumstances, who has achieved the extraordinary, who has transformed their life, has had to carry the weight of doubt, fear, and limitation, and then choose to rise above it. These people did not wait for permission. They did not wait for certainty. They did not wait for someone else to lift the burden. They understood that the weight of the chains was simply the weight of opportunity waiting to be claimed. They understood that the heavier the chains, the greater the power that could be unleashed the moment they were broken. The weight of chains is not permanent. It is not invincible. It is not a reflection of who you are. It is a reflection of where you have been and what you have been told. And the most important truth is that every chain, no matter how long you have carried it, can be broken. You do not have to negotiate with fear. You do not have to accept limitation. You do not have to remain imprisoned by the past. The weight of chains is a choice only if you choose to leave it there. Every act of courage, every step of faith, every decision to challenge the limits imposed on you chips away at the burden and brings you closer to freedom. And freedom, real freedom, is not just the absence of chains. It is the presence of power. It is the ability to move forward without hesitation, to act without doubt, to create without fear, to love without restriction, and to live without apology. Freedom comes when the chains are no longer invisible, when the burden is seen for what it is, and when the mind and spirit recognize that the only thing truly holding them back was their own belief in the weight. The chains are heavy, yes, but they are not permanent. They are a challenge, a test, a moment in time, not a lifetime sentence. And when you understand this, when you feel it deep in your bones, when you choose to confront it head on, the world shifts. The air changes, the energy changes, and the person you were trapped in the past can finally step into the power that was waiting all along. Life does not wait for us to be ready. It does not pause while we gather courage, study the risks, or seek approval from anyone or anything. The world continues to move, opportunities continue to appear and disappear, and the clock continues to tick. The moment of decision is not something that can be scheduled, postponed, or perfectly timed. It comes unexpectedly, often disguised as a challenge, a disruption, or a sudden demand for action. And yet, it is the single most powerful moment in any person's life. The instant when potential becomes reality, when dreams become plans, when hesitation ends and momentum begins. Too many people wait. Too many people delay. Too many people search for certainty, safety, or reassurance. Thinking that the perfect conditions will eventually arrive, they think that the timing has to be flawless, that the circumstances have to align perfectly, or that they have to feel completely ready. But the truth is, readiness never comes. Life is messy. Circumstances are rarely perfect. And the courage to act is not something that waits politely until you feel safe. The moment of decision is a commitment. It is a declaration to yourself that no matter the obstacles, no matter the fear, no matter the uncertainty, you are moving forward. It is not a casual choice or a tentative step. It is a conscious, unshakable commitment to take action, to claim ownership of your life, and to refuse to remain a passive observer in your own story. And it is in that instant, in that decisive choice, that power is unleashed, because action has a momentum that thought alone cannot produce. Thinking, planning, and imagining are valuable, but they are static. Action is kinetic, dynamic, unstoppable. When you decide, the universe responds. Doors begin to open, opportunities begin to appear, and the energy around you shifts in ways that you cannot predict. Many people confuse indecision with caution. They tell themselves they are being careful, strategic, or thoughtful, when in reality they are trapped in a prison of fear disguised as logic. They weigh options endlessly, analyze outcomes obsessively, and imagine consequences endlessly, yet nothing changes. They remain anchored in the same place, weighed down by the very uncertainty they are trying to avoid. But the truth is, inaction is far riskier than action. Inaction guarantees stagnation. Inaction guarantees regret. Inaction guarantees that the life you want, the impact you want, and the transformation you seek remains locked away. And the moment you realize that inaction is the true threat, you begin to understand the power of decision. Decision is a declaration of belief. When you decide, you are declaring to yourself and to the world that you trust your ability to handle the challenges, that you trust your capacity to adapt, and that you trust your inner strength to carry you through. Every great achievement in history, every remarkable transformation, every story of success begins with a single unshakable decision. It is rarely dramatic or sensational at first. Often it is quiet, internal resolve that says, I am done waiting, I am done doubting, I am done limiting myself. And that quiet resolve is more powerful than any external circumstance because it sets in motion forces that cannot be contained. The moment of decision also demands courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is acting in spite of fear. It is stepping into uncertainty when the mind screams to retreat. It is raising your hand, speaking your truth, taking the first step, and refusing to allow doubt to dictate your path. Courage and decision are inseparable because without courage, decision is hollow, and without decision, courage has no outlet. Every time you hesitate, every time you postpone, every time you seek external validation, you dilute the power of what could have been. But when you embrace the courage to decide, the ripple effect is extraordinary. It changes your energy, your mindset, your actions, and the trajectory of your life. The moment of decision is not always a single monumental choice. Sometimes it is a series of small, consistent choices that accumulate over time. Each choice to take action, each choice to rise above fear, each choice to invest in yourself, each choice to challenge limitation, chips away at the barriers that have been holding you back. The key is consistency and immediacy. Do not wait for certainty. Do not wait for comfort. Do not wait for someone else to give you permission. The very act of deciding is what creates clarity. The very act of deciding is what produces momentum. And the very act of deciding is what breaks the seal on your potential. One of the most powerful aspects of the moment of decision is that it transforms responsibility into ownership. When you decide, you are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are no longer at the mercy of external events, opinions, or obstacles. You become the author of your story, the driver of your destiny, the person who shapes outcomes rather than merely reacting to them. Ownership is liberating, but it is also demanding. It requires you to stand fully in your power, to acknowledge the consequences of your choices, and to act with relentless commitment. Every decision carries consequences, but every great decision carries the seed of transformation, the opportunity to redefine your life, and the chance to create something extraordinary. Fear will always appear at the moment of decision. Fear will whisper doubts, highlight risks, and magnify uncertainty. But the most successful people do not eliminate fear, they embrace it. They use fear as a signal that something important is at stake. They use fear as a compass pointing toward growth. They use fear as fuel for action. The moment you act in spite of fear, you experience the first taste of liberation. You experience the realization that the barriers were never as strong as your resolve. You experience the power that comes when thought turns into action and intention turns into results. The beauty of the moment of decision is that it is entirely within your control. You cannot always control circumstances, opportunities, or people, but you can control the choice you make right now. You can decide to step forward rather than retreat. You can decide to commit rather than hesitate. You can decide to act rather than wait. And the cumulative effect of these decisions is unstoppable. The small, decisive steps taken consistently over time compound into momentum that carries you past fear, past limitation, past the very chains that once held you down. Decision is the bridge between who you are and who you can become. It is the spark that ignites the fire of action. It is the key that unlocks doors previously closed. It is the moment that separates those who dream from those who achieve, those who wish from those who create, those who wait from those who conquer. And every time you embrace the moment of decision with clarity, courage, and commitment, you take another step closer to the life you were meant to live. The most successful, fulfilled, and extraordinary people on this planet did not achieve their results because of perfect circumstances, infinite time, or the absence of fear. They achieved them because they mastered the moment of decision. They understood that action taken decisively and consistently changes everything. They understood that hesitation guarantees stagnation. They understood that their power lies in their ability to choose. And when you understand this truth, when you feel it coursing through your veins, when you internalize it as your own, you recognize that the moment of decision is not something to be feared, ignored, or delayed. It is the most powerful tool you have for breaking the chains, claiming your potential, and living the life you have always imagined. There is a force inside you that has been waiting patiently for you to notice it, for you to awaken it, for you to claim it. This is not something external, not something anyone can give you, not something that can be bought, sold, or borrowed. This is the power within, the energy, the strength, the creativity, and the brilliance that is your birthright. And yet so many people go through life unaware of it, underestimating it, doubting it, and even denying that it exists. They look outward for validation, for permission, for evidence that they are capable, when the real evidence has been inside them all along. The power within is not limited by circumstance, by history, by past failure, or by the opinions of others. It is not constrained by the size of your bank account, the shape of your body, the level of education you have, or the people you have met. It is limitless, inexhaustible, and unstoppable once awakened. The first step in accessing this power is belief. Belief that you are capable of more than you have allowed yourself to believe. Belief that your past mistakes do not define your future, that your current limitations are temporary, and that your potential is far greater than anything you have imagined. Belief is the ignition switch. Without belief, your power remains dormant, hidden beneath fear, doubt, and self-judgment. But the moment you choose to believe in yourself, the energy within begins to surge. You begin to see opportunities, possibilities, and solutions where before there were only obstacles, problems, and impossibilities. You begin to act with conviction, and action fuels the power even further. The power within is activated by decision. Every great transformation, every breakthrough, every extraordinary accomplishment begins with a single choice. A choice to rise, to move, to act, to push beyond comfort, to refuse to accept less than what you know you are capable of. When you decide, you release the energy that has been trapped inside, waiting for a signal to break free. And this energy is not just mental. It is physical, emotional, spiritual. It flows through your body, sharpens your focus, heightens your awareness, and strengthens your resolve. It is the difference between someone who talks about what they want and someone who takes it. The power within is not a secret. It has been studied, understood, and demonstrated by every person who has achieved greatness. It is the force that allows a single individual to overcome seemingly impossible odds, to rise above circumstances, to achieve what others deem improbable. It is the force that drives entrepreneurs to create empires, athletes to break records, artists to inspire generations, and leaders to change the world. And the remarkable truth is that the same power exists within you. It has always existed. It does not need to be invented. It does not need to be discovered in a faraway place. It does not need to be earned. It simply needs to be recognized and activated. Many people fail to access this power because they confuse comfort with safety. They think that staying within the familiar is wise, that avoiding risk is prudent, that not taking action is a form of protection. But comfort is an illusion. Safety is a cage. And the power within cannot thrive when it is confined by hesitation, fear, or indecision. The energy is there, vibrating, pulsating, waiting for you to say yes to yourself, waiting for you to step into the arena, to challenge your limits, to break the chains of doubt, and to move toward the life that only you can create. The moment you embrace this, the world transforms because energy flows where attention goes. When you focus on your own power, when you commit to acting from that power, obstacles shrink, fears diminish, and doors open that were previously invisible. The power within is fueled by action. Thinking alone will not awaken it. Planning alone will not release it. Wishing, hoping, or dreaming alone will not access it. Action is the conduit through which potential becomes kinetic, ideas become reality, and dreams become tangible. Every small step you take in the direction of your vision activates your inner energy. Every choice to face fear, every choice to persevere, every choice to refuse mediocrity feeds the fire that is your power within. And the beauty of it is that the more you act, the more power you gain. Action does not just produce results. It produces energy, confidence, momentum, and clarity. The chain reaction is unstoppable once it begins. The power within is also fueled by focus. Focus is the lens through which energy is concentrated and directed. Without focus, energy scatters, attention wanders, and potential is wasted. When you decide what matters most, when you commit to your highest priorities, when you align your actions with your purpose, the power within multiplies exponentially. Focus transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary impact. It allows you to channel your strength toward what truly matters, to ignore distractions, and to persist when the world doubts, resists, or challenges you. Focus is not just a skill, it is the bridge between potential and performance, between the power inside and the life outside. The power within is also cultivated through resilience. Life will test you. Challenges will appear. Doubts will resurface. Setbacks will occur. And yet the power within does not vanish. When adversity arrives, it grows stronger. Every time you face difficulty and refuse to give up, every time you rise after a fall, every time you confront your fears and persist, your inner power expands. Resilience is the amplifier of strength, the multiplier of courage, and the engine of transformation. Those who understand this are unstoppable because they do not rely on favorable conditions or external validation. They rely on the unshakable force inside them, a force that cannot be defeated by circumstance, opinion, or temporary setbacks. The power within is deeply personal. It is unique to you. No one else can wield it for you. No one else can define it. No one else can limit it. Your power is the combination of your experiences, your talents, your passions, your vision, and your values. It is forged in the fire of your struggles, molded by the lessons of your past, and sharpened by your decisions and actions. It is yours entirely and unapologetically. And the sooner you recognize this, the sooner you stop comparing yourself to others, the sooner you stop waiting for someone else to lead, the sooner you step fully into your own life and claim your destiny. The power within is not passive. It is not something that waits quietly while life happens around you. It demands engagement, participation, and commitment. It calls for courage, audacity, and persistence. It thrives when you challenge yourself, when you take risks, when you refuse to settle, when you stretch beyond what you thought possible. And the remarkable thing is that the more you use it, the more it grows. Energy begets energy, momentum begets momentum, and confidence begets confidence. The power within is a living force, responsive to your attention, fueled by your action, and magnified by your belief. Finally, the power within is transformative. It is the force that turns ordinary people into extraordinary achievers, mundane lives into epic journeys, and untapped potential into tangible results. It is the key to freedom, fulfillment, and impact. It is the secret that every successful person has discovered, whether they realize it or not. And it is waiting for you now in this very moment, ready to be awakened, ready to be embraced, ready to carry you past fear, past doubt, past limitation, and into the life you have always imagined. The dam holds back the water, not because the water isn't powerful, but because the structure was built to contain it. And in the same way, your potential has been contained, restrained, and suppressed, not because you are weak, but because circumstances, beliefs, and fears have built walls around it. Life has stacked the bricks of doubt, fear, and limitation so carefully that you began to believe that your energy, your creativity, your passion, and your power were somehow meant to be contained, controlled, or rationed. You believed that comfort zones were safe harbors, that hesitation was wisdom, and that waiting was strategy. But in reality, the water has been building, rising, pressing against every barrier, every chain, every limitation, and it has been waiting for one moment, one single decisive moment, to break through and flood the life you are meant to live. The pressure behind the dam is cumulative. Every dream you postponed, every risk you avoided, every opportunity you ignored adds to the pressure. Every time you listened to fear instead of courage, every time you said, I can instead of I will, every time you chose comfort over growth, you added more water behind the dam. And the remarkable thing about water is that it cannot be stopped forever. It is relentless. It finds the weakest point. It seeks the smallest crack. And when the dam finally breaks, it does not trickle. It floods. It moves with unstoppable force, sweeping away obstacles, tearing down old beliefs, and clearing a path for transformation. Breaking the dam requires recognition. You must see the barriers for what they are, not for what you have been told they are. The walls you fear are not impenetrable. They are only strong because you have given them strength through doubt, fear, and inaction. Once you recognize that these barriers are constructs, that they exist only because you have allowed them to exist, the first crack begins to appear. Awareness is the first step toward liberation because it allows you to identify where the pressure is greatest, where the fear is loudest, where the chains are heaviest, and where the energy you have been holding back is ready to explode. Without recognition, the dam remains intact and the potential within you stays trapped, hidden, untapped. Action is what causes the crack to widen. Recognition alone is not enough. Understanding alone does not release the power that has been contained. Action is kinetic. It is the force that turns potential into reality. Every step you take toward your goals, every decision to act despite fear, every moment you refuse to shrink chips away at the dam. Small actions repeated consistently create pressure points that weaken the structure. And sometimes it is a single bold act, a decisive leap, a refusal to remain in your comfort zone that causes the first rupture, the first explosion of momentum, the first surge of unstoppable energy. Fear will try to resist this process. It will scream, threaten, and attempt to convince you that the walls are too strong, that the pressure is too high, that you are not capable of breaking through. Fear will remind you of past failures, highlight the consequences of risk, and amplify the unknown. But fear is only a measure of the importance of what is ahead. The higher the fear, the greater the potential. The louder the voice of doubt, the more critical it is that you act. When you move in spite of fear, you do not just chip away at the dam. You start to demolish it, allowing the water to surge forward in ways you could not have imagined when you were trapped behind it. The moment the dam breaks is transformative. It is not gradual or polite. It is sudden, powerful, and liberating. The energy that has been contained cannot be stopped once it is released. Every ounce of potential, every dream deferred, every suppressed idea, every hidden talent floods forward with unstoppable momentum. You are no longer restrained by hesitation, fear, or doubt. The barriers that once seemed permanent crumble in the face of consistent action and unwavering commitment. And the beauty of this flood is that it carries with it everything that has been building: the clarity of vision, the courage to act, the strength to persevere, and the relentless determination to create the life you are meant to live. Breaking the dam is not just about overcoming external obstacles. It is about confronting internal ones. The walls are as much mental as they are physical. Limiting beliefs, self-judgment, doubt, and fear act as internal structures holding back your energy. And just like the external dam, they are strengthened by years of thought patterns, habits, and conditioning. Every time you tell yourself you are not capable, every time you believe you are not enough, every time you compare yourself to others, you are adding pressure to the dam. But every time you challenge a belief, every time you act in defiance of doubt, every time you choose courage over comfort, you weaken the internal structures and allow your energy to surge forward. The flood of your potential is unstoppable once the dam breaks. Water does not hesitate. Water does not second guess. Water does not retreat. It moves with intention, power, and momentum. And so does your energy, your passion, your creativity, and your ability to impact the world. The breaking of the dam is a turning point, a declaration that you will no longer be contained by circumstance, opinion, or fear. It is the moment you recognize that your power is greater than any limitation you have faced, that your potential is larger than any obstacle, and that your destiny is waiting for you to claim it with full force. Persistence is key to breaking the dam. Often, the pressure will build slowly, almost imperceptibly, until a threshold is reached. Many give up before this point, thinking that the resistance is too strong, that the barriers are unmovable, that the flood is impossible. But those who persist, those who continue to act, those who refuse to shrink, find that the water cannot be contained indefinitely. The pressure builds until the breakthrough is inevitable, and the flood that follows is proportionate to the energy, effort, and courage that has been applied. Persistence is the amplifier of potential, the multiplier of power, and the bridge between contained energy and unstoppable momentum. Breaking the dam also requires vision. You must know what you are releasing your energy toward. Water floods, but without a path, it can be destructive. Your energy, your power, your potential must be directed with clarity, focus, and intention. Every action you take must have purpose. Every step must align with your highest goals. The flood is unstoppable, but it is most transformative when it is directed toward creating, building, and manifesting the life you desire. Vision gives the flood direction, meaning, and impact, turning raw power into life-changing results. The dam can also be broken collectively. Sometimes the pressure is too great to be released by one individual alone. Support, mentorship, guidance, and collaboration can create leverage, amplify energy, and accelerate the breakthrough. But even in collaboration, the responsibility to act remains personal. Each person must contribute their energy, their courage, their commitment. The flood begins with individual decision, individual action, individual courage, and then it grows into collective momentum that is unstoppable, transformative, and life-changing. Breaking the dam is a declaration. It is a declaration that you will no longer be held back by fear, doubt, or limitation. It is a declaration that your potential is limitless, that your energy is unstoppable, and that your life will no longer be contained by the structures of the past. It is a declaration that you are ready to act, ready to create, ready to flood the world with your impact, influence, and brilliance. Every barrier you encounter is temporary. Every limitation is surmountable. Every chain can be broken. And when the dam finally breaks, nothing in your path can resist the flood that follows. Freedom is not a gift. It is a choice. It is not something that can be handed to you by circumstance, by opportunity, or by someone else's permission. It is something you claim, something you take, something you fight for, and something you refuse to relinquish once it is yours. For far too long, many of us have lived in subtle cages constructed of fear, doubt, limiting beliefs, and the expectations of others. These cages are invisible to the outside world, but heavy on the spirit, restricting movement, dimming vision, and muffling potential. And yet freedom has always been possible. It has always been within reach. It has always been your birthright. Claiming freedom begins the moment you refuse to allow your life to be dictated by the chains of the past or the limitations imposed by others. The first step in claiming freedom is awareness. You must see the invisible walls, recognize the patterns that have kept you small, and confront the lies you have told yourself about what is possible. Awareness is not passive observation. It is active recognition. It is staring into the face of fear, doubt, and limitation and saying, I see you and I will not be controlled by you any longer. Without awareness, the mind cannot act, the heart cannot commit, and the spirit cannot rise. Awareness illuminates the boundaries that have confined you and allows you to understand the magnitude of what is possible once those boundaries are shattered. The second step is decision. Freedom is never granted. It is seized through choice. Every great life, every monumental achievement, every transformative journey begins with a decision, a firm, unshakable declaration to oneself that the chains will no longer bind, that fear will no longer dictate, and that limitations will no longer define. Decision is the ignition switch. Until you decide, the potential for freedom remains dormant, trapped beneath hesitation and doubt. The moment you choose, the energy within you surges, momentum begins to build, and the first cracks in the walls of limitation appear. Decision is both courageous and catalytic because it converts thought into action and intention into reality. Action is the third step. Freedom is not a concept. It is kinetic. It is earned through effort, persistence, and relentless commitment. You cannot dream your way into freedom. You cannot talk your way into freedom. You must act. Every step taken in alignment with your vision, every choice to move despite fear, every effort to challenge the status quo and break patterns builds the bridge from limitation to liberation. Action channels the power within you, amplifies momentum, and shatters resistance. The world rewards those who act decisively, consistently, and boldly, and those who claim freedom understand that movement is non-negotiable. Claiming freedom also requires courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act in spite of it. It is the understanding that fear is simply a signal of importance and that the magnitude of what is ahead requires bravery. True freedom is impossible without courage because it demands stepping into the unknown, challenging authority, breaking old patterns, and defying the expectations that have held you back. Each act of courage chips away at the chains, dissolves the barriers, and amplifies your capacity to expand into the life you were born to live. Courage is the fuel that transforms decision into momentum, fear into action, and potential into tangible results. The power of claiming freedom is amplified by focus. Focus is the lens through which intention is concentrated, energy is directed, and action becomes effective. Without focus, freedom is scattered, diluted, and ineffective. With focus, your efforts are multiplied, your momentum is sustained, and your results are accelerated. Focus allows you to ignore distraction, reject the noise of naysayers, and align every action with your highest purpose. When freedom is claimed with clarity of focus, it is not fleeting or superficial. It is profound, transformative, and permanent. Resilience is another essential element. Freedom is not achieved in the absence of challenge. Life will resist, doubts will arise, obstacles will appear, setbacks will occur. And yet resilience allows you to persist, adapt, and thrive in the face of adversity. Every time you rise after a fall, every time you persist, when it would be easier to surrender, every time you refuse to shrink in the face of pressure, your freedom grows stronger. Resilience transforms temporary victories into lasting liberation. It ensures that once freedom is claimed, it is not lost to fear, limitation, or circumstance. Claiming freedom also requires self-mastery. True freedom is not external, it is internal. It is the ability to govern your mind, control your emotions, direct your energy, and harness your will. Without self-mastery, the mind remains captive to doubt, the heart remains bound by fear, and the spirit remains constrained by indecision. Self-mastery is the tool that ensures freedom is sustainable. It allows you to respond rather than react, to create rather than drift, and to lead yourself rather than be led by circumstance. Freedom is permanent only when it is anchored in control over self. The moment you claim freedom, your life transforms. You begin to act with purpose rather than hesitation, with power rather than limitation, and with clarity rather than confusion. Opportunities that were invisible become visible. Doors that were closed begin to open. Relationships, careers, health, and personal growth all respond to the energy you radiate when you are free. Freedom is contagious. It inspires others to rise, challenges the status quo, and redefines what is possible in your world. Every action you take from a place of freedom carries more power, more impact, and more influence than any action taken from limitation or fear. Freedom also demands responsibility. It is not chaos or an excuse to act without thought. Freedom is the power to choose, and with choice comes accountability. You are responsible for your actions, your decisions, and your impact on the world. This responsibility is not a burden. It is liberation in its highest form. When you take full ownership of your life, your destiny, and your potential, you step into the highest expression of freedom. You no longer wait for permission, excuses, or circumstances. You move boldly, decisively, and intentionally toward the life you are meant to create. The beauty of claiming freedom is that it is limitless. Once the chains are broken, the dam is released, and the energy is unleashed, your potential is infinite. There are no barriers that cannot be overcome, no heights that cannot be reached, no dreams that cannot be realized. Freedom is not a finite resource. It grows as you exercise it. The more you act, the more you choose courage over fear, the more you align with your purpose, the stronger and more expansive your freedom becomes. It multiplies, ripples, and reverberates through every aspect of your life, touching every decision, every relationship, and every opportunity. Finally, claiming freedom is a declaration. It is a declaration to yourself, to the world, and to the life you are meant to live. It says, I refuse to be bound by fear. I refuse to be limited by doubt. I refuse to settle for anything less than my potential. I am choosing action over hesitation, courage over comfort, and purpose over stagnation. And that declaration is not just words. It is energy, momentum, and transformation. It is the ignition of a life lived fully, powerfully, and unapologetically